Hello friends, a very warm welcome to all of you. Today we are starting a brand new series of MCQs and PYQs. In this series, we'll be dealing with all the important multiple choice questions as well as the previous year questions. So starting with today's class, this is question number 1 for you. First read the question, pause the video and try to answer the question. Now, 3 statements are given and we have to read the statements and figure out which of the following atmospheric disturbances is properly represented by the 3 statements. Statement number 1 is the strongest rotating low pressure system that is usually found in the Mississippi Basin. Second, environmental lapse rate is more than the dry adiabatic lapse rate. Number 2 and number 3, these are also called as twisters. Is it clear? These are the 3 statements. Now, why this question first? Because the same question was asked by UPSC in 2024 mains. The question was, what are the twisters? So that is why I thought of bringing this question first up. If you look at the first statement, you will find 2 key important words. Key words here are the strongest rotating low pressure systems. Strongest, very important, and rotating. When you look at the options, you will figure out that hurricanes, cyclones and tornadoes all are the rotating and they also are of low pressure systems. Number 1. After that, it is the strongest. So you'll have to figure out which of the following is more strong as compared to the others. If you look at them, the wind speed and other things, then you will figure out which of the following is the strongest. That is number 1. After that, the other important word, that is Mississippi Basin. This is the most important word that you will find in this statement. Mississippi Basin, if you know about the river Mississippi in North America, this is the map of the North America and this is the Mississippi Basin. The river Mississippi flows through this region and this includes the Mississippi Basin. And this region is prone to tornadoes. If you look at this, the tornado LI. So this region is more prone to tornadoes. So I hope you have understood what Mississippi Basin means, and tornadoes are more common in this region. So this statement indicates that it's talking about the tornadoes. If you want to look at further statements, well and good. If you don't want to look, you can still answer it from the one statement alone. But do look at the other statements as well. What are they also called as? They are also called as twisters. This was the question asked in the mains 2024. So all these statements prove that we are talking about the tornadoes. I hope you understood question number 1. Now, tornadoes are a very complex phenomena. If you know about their formation, how they are formed, there will be the rolling, the wind shear plays its role, then there's an updraft and the downdraft. That we'll learn in detail when we're dealing with the climatology. Right now, all you need to know is about these things that I already told you. Going to the next question, it is the most easiest question that I've got for you, but it's a previous year questions that were asked in 1998 by UPSC. So it is asking you to arrange the atmospheric layers from surface upwards. Now, if you don't know about the layers of the atmosphere, let me draw it for you. If this is the surface of the earth, the first layer that is there is called as the troposphere. It is like this. It has the highest thickness near the equator, around 18 kilometers, and at poles it is around 8. So this is how the first layer is there, and it is troposphere, number 1. After the troposphere, you will find the second layer, that is the stratosphere. Stratosphere is the second layer and there is the presence of ozone in this layer as well. That is number 2. Then you go to the third layer, or number 3. Number 3 is the mesosphere. Mesosphere is the third layer, and finally you will find one more layer, that is the ionosphere. These are the 4 layers of the atmosphere. You can talk of exosphere, thermosphere as well, but right now we are dealing with these 4 layers as per the question, as per the demand of the question. These are the 4 layers up to 18 kilometers, then this will go up to 50 kilometers, up to 80 kilometers, and then verify ionosphere. So if you want a mnemonym for this, this is I M, then use the OST. Why O? Because of ozone, so that you can remember it easily. It is I most. I most is the mnemonym for the layers of the atmosphere. I hope you got the layers of the atmosphere. Now, if you look at the question, you have to arrange these layers. You can easily get confused here. You can use this. If you use I most and I, M, O is the ozone, S and T. But this is not the answer because you have not read the question correctly. You have to arrange the layers from the surface of the earth and then go upwards. So you have to start from the troposphere. Troposphere, then stratosphere, mesosphere and ionosphere. So the question number 2, the answer will be C. So this is how you have to answer the question. Now coming to another question, that is question number 3. This is very important because this is an assertion and reason question. If you don't know about the assertion and reasons, then in these kinds of questions, there are 2 statements. You have to see if the first statement is correct, then if the second statement is correct, and is the second statement correctly explaining the first? Is the second statement correct explanation of the first statement? So assertion and reason is how you have to tackle with these questions. Now, let us start with the question. Thickness of the atmosphere is maximum over the poles. The question that we did just before this. And then high insulation and strong convection currents occur over the equator. These are the questions. Now, what do you think? What should be the answer? We have 4 options. First is that both assertion and reason is correct. Don't get confused between this. Both those statements are correct and the reason is correctly explaining the assertion. It is supporting it. You have option B that both are correct. Yes, both the statements are correct, but the reason is not the correct explanation of assertion. Then you have the third statement that assertion is correct and reason is not. And the fourth, assertion is wrong and the reason is correct. Is it clear how you have to answer this? Now, if you look at the previous question, I already mentioned that the thickness of the atmosphere is maximum near the equator, like this. It is maximum near the equator. Around 18 kilometers of the troposphere was here. So it is maximum at this place. So our first statement, the assertion is true. The assertion is true. Now we have to look at the reason. Reason is that it is because of the insulation and the convection currents. Now, if you look at the surface of the earth near the equator, you will figure that there is more insulation as compared to the temperate and the tropical regions. There is more insulation in this region near the equator as compared to the temperate regions. Because of that, the air around this region will heat up. And when it will heat up, it will start to rise as the warm air ascends. Once the air will ascend, it will go up as compared to the poles. If you look at the poles, the air will not ascend because there will not be the temperature as it is near the equator. Now, because of this, the air will ascend and the thickness here will be more as compared to the poles where the air is not ascending, but the cold air will descend more and the thickness will be less. So the reason is correct, assertion is correct, and the reason is correctly explaining the assertion as well. So the answer for question number 3 should be A. You can pause and answer if you think that I'm going too fast. Please let me know in the comments if I'm going too fast as well. Let's go to the next question. Which of the following factors are responsible for the origin of tropical cyclones? Tropical cyclones are the cyclones that are normally formed between the tropics. That is the Tropic of the Cancer and the Tropic of the Capricorn. Okay, and on the equator you will not find the tropical cyclones. That I'll answer you why is it so. You are given 5 options and you have to tell which of the following are responsible for the formation of tropical cyclones. We will not study the entire formation, but let's take these points one by one. If you look at the image, first of all, you will figure out that there is the heating up of the water. The temperature should exceed the 26 degrees or it should be 27 degrees and more. That is the first basic thing that should be there, that the temperature should be more than 27 degrees. So the first statement that the sea surface temperature, yes, that is right. Sea surface temperature of more than 27 degrees is essential for the formation of tropical cyclones. Because of that, there will be evaporation. Once the evaporation starts, the evaporated air will go up and after reaching a certain height, it will start to cool down. If you look at this image here, you see at this height, the air will start to cool down and it will release the latent heat. What is the latent heat? It is the heat. Latent heat of condensation will be released at this point. What is the latent heat of condensation? It is the energy that it took while it was evaporating. Now, because it's going back to condense, because of the condensation, it will release the excess energy. That is the latent heat. The excess heat will be released, and that is called as the latent heat of condensation. What that will do is that will make the air lighter, because the air will become warm when the heat is released, and it will further strengthen the tropical cyclone. So two things are clear. First, that sea surface temperature should be there, the latent heat plays its role, and number three, once the air will go up, there will start to develop a low pressure system in this region. When the air will go up, the low pressure system will start to develop. It will bring more air from the surrounding, and once the air will come, it will start to go up again. It will follow the path, and because of the Coriolis force, it will start to rotate. Coriolis force will not allow the air to ascend in a straight direction, but in a rotating manner. Is it clear how the Coriolis force will play its part? Now, if you know about the Coriolis force, then it is zero at the equator. If it is zero at the equator, then it is not possible for the tropical cyclone to develop at the equator, because there is no Coriolis force. So I hope you have understood how the sea surface temperature will play its part, how the Coriolis force will play its part, and how the latent heat of condensation plays its part. So if you look at the question again, then we have strong Coriolis force needed. Yes, as I already explained. Did I mention the cold currents anywhere? No. Did I mention the upwelling anywhere? No. Then latent heat of condensation? Yes, definitely. And sea surface temperature? Yes. So 1, 4 and 5 is the correct answer. That is option D. Don't get confused with cold currents and upwelling. There is no role of cold currents and upwelling in the tropical cyclones. Clear about question number 4? Let's go to the last question today. Please try and answer it before I explain. Now we are asked about the cold front. If you know about the fronts, there are fronts, multiple types of fronts, but right now we're talking about the cold front. It is a type of a front in which the cold air mass is active. That is, it is moving towards the warm air mass. When we talk of the cold front, we are given 3 statements and we are asked about which of the following is incorrect. It is relatively more steep than the warm front. Number 1. It is more steep than the warm front. It pushes the warm air from below, and it is associated with the heavy rain. Now, before we answer this, I want to look at the diagram. This is a diagram of a cold front. The cold front is forming right around this region. This is the place where the cold front is forming. The yellow region that I have marked, it is the cold front. Now, what is happening here is that if you look at this cold air mass, it is going towards the warm air mass, and it is getting in the territory of the warm air mass, and it will eventually displace the warm air mass from below. So what it is causing is it is moving like this, and then it is going under the warm air mass and pushing it upwards. So it is displacing it from below. That was the one statement that was there. That is correct. Now, if you look at this front, the cold front, it is more steep. If you don't have the knowledge about the fronts, then let me tell you, it is more steep as compared to the warm front. The cold front is normally represented like this. It is more steep as compared to the warm front. Warm front is more or less like this. So if you look at these two, then this is more steep as compared to this. This is the cold front. So yes, it is more steep as compared to the warm front. Going to the third statement that it causes heavy rain, that is also correct. Why? Because of the cumulonimbus cloud. The cloud that is associated with the cold front is the cumulonimbus. When the cold front will form, it will also lead to the formation of the cumulonimbus cloud, and these types of clouds cause very heavy rainfall. That is why this region has a very heavy precipitation, because of the cumulonimbus clouds. So these are the 3 statements that were mentioned there. It is relatively more steep. As I mentioned it, yes, it is. It pushes the warm air from below. I showed it how it is pushing the warm air, and it is associated with heavy rainfall and thunder because of the cumulonimbus clouds. So what should be the answer? C, 1, 2 and 3 is wrong. First of all, if you decided to go for C, it is not correct, because you have to select the incorrect statements. Don't miss the incorrect word. Read the question properly and don't miss such kinds of words. So none of them is incorrect. So the none of the above, option D, will be your answer. So that is all about today's 5 MCQs. If you have got some positive feedback for me or any negative, you can tell me in the comments. I hope you liked the session today. Thank you very much